You feel the heat before you understand it. The tiles beneath your bare feet are white as bone, polished to a mirror sheen, and they sear your skin each time you shift your weight. You stand there, wrists bound in iron that bites deep into the softness of your young flesh. Every movement sends a fresh stab of pain radiating up your arms. Somewhere behind you, the heavy doors have closed with a muffled thud. A hush spreads across the chamber, rippling outward as the courtiers realize what spectacle has been delivered for their appraisal. You are 12 years old, your ribs visible beneath a tunic stained by weeks of travel, your hair matted to your forehead, your lips cracked and bleeding. You tilt your chin upward, trying to remember you were once called a prince. But in this place, your name has been discarded like a soiled garment. The hall is vast, almost obscene in its luxury. Silken banners drip from the rafters in vivid hues of lapis and cinnabar. Sunlight pours through high lattice windows, catching on gold filigree and casting wavering reflections across the marble floor. The air is thick with the perfume of crushed roses, incense, and something rank beneath it all, sweat, perhaps, or fear itself. A murmur rises among the onlookers, a swirl of silk sleeves and jeweled fingers raised to curious lips. You hear fragments of languages you don't understand, the words sliding over you like oil. But you understand their tone, a mingling of pity and fascination. They have seen boys like you before. They will see them again. One figure steps forward. You dare to meet his gaze, though your heart stammers in your chest. His eyes are lined with kohl, set above hollowed cheeks. He wears a robe of midnight blue, embroidered in silver with the Sultan's sigil, a stylized flame devouring a crescent moon. In his hand he carries a ledger bound in cracked leather. "This is the one," he asks in a voice as soft as crushed velvet. He does not speak to you, he speaks over you. "Yes, Vizier," a guard replies, pressing a palm against the back of your neck until your gaze drops to the floor. Purchased from the Genoese captain. The ruby was weighed and authenticated. The Vizier makes a small, satisfied sound. You feel his scrutiny on your bowed head, on the raw red lines where the manacles have chewed into your skin. You imagine how you must appear to him, a pale, half-starved creature, more spectacle than human. You dare to lift your eyes again, just long enough to see the object that has sealed your fate. Resting in the Vizier's palm, cradled in a square of black silk, is the ruby. It glows in the slanting light, the color of fresh blood. You think of your mother's face as you were led from your home, her lips moving soundlessly, her hand pressed to her heart, and you wonder if she would believe that everything you were, everything you might have become, was traded for this single glittering stone. The Vizier gestures, and two eunuchs emerge from the shadows. They wear tunics of pale linen, their faces expressionless. One holds a slender rod, carved from ivory and inlaid with mother of pearl. You flinch as it rises, anticipating the blow, but instead it hovers just beneath your chin. With a flick, the eunuch lifts your face, turning it this way and that. You see your own reflection in his black eyes, a child caught in the moment of becoming a possession. A scribe steps forward to record the particulars. Height, 4 cubits. Weight, estimated 5 stone. Skin, unblemished, save for restraint abrasions. Age, 12 summers. Origin, principality of... He pauses, glancing at the Vizier for confirmation. Origin is irrelevant, the Vizier murmurs, eyes fixed on yours. It is the Sultan's wish that no past accompanies the boy. He will be known only by his designation. You swallow, though your throat feels too tight to permit it. You want to protest, to insist you have a name, a lineage, a claim to dignity. But no words come. In the hollow silence that follows, you feel something important slipping from you, something you will never recover. The vizier lowers his gaze to the ruby. "Inform His Excellency that the tribute has arrived," he instructs the scribe. He will wish to inspect the acquisition before the evening meal. At this, a shiver of dread passes over you. Inspect is a word you have heard whispered among the other captives, a word that carries the weight of unspeakable things. The scribe bows low and vanishes through a side door. The vizier inclines his head almost imperceptibly to the guards, who seize your arms. You are dragged forward across the blistering tiles. Each step is a small torture, the soles of your feet scalded, your wrists twisted until you think the bones must crack. As you are led deeper into the palace, the sounds of the hall recede, the speculative murmurs, the rustle of silk. The corridor ahead is darker, narrower. The walls are lined with niches where brass lamps flicker in the gloom. The air grows cooler, scented now with cloves and the bitter tang of some astringent you cannot name. Somewhere ahead, a door groans open on ancient hinges. The guards push you into a small chamber, lit only by a single lantern. Its glow pulls across a low pallet, a copper basin, a folded length of soft white cloth. One of the eunuchs steps forward, his voice so gentle it makes your heart stutter. "You will be prepared for His Excellency's pleasure," he says. "Wash yourself, remove your rags." He does not wait for your reply. The door closes behind him with a soft finality. You stand alone in the darkness, your chest heaving. You have never felt smaller. You have never felt more helpless. The ruby glints in your mind, brighter than any candle. You think of it perched in the vizier's hand, a bauble of perfect, pitiless beauty. And you understand, at last, that in this place you are nothing more than a curiosity purchased for a single gem. In the silence, you feel the first tear slip down your cheek. It falls onto the tiles with a tiny sound you will remember for the rest of your short life. Before you surrender to the darkness behind your closed eyes, you remember. You remember the halls of your father's palace, smaller and humbler than this place, but bright with banners that proclaimed a dynasty 6 generations old. You remember the taste of honeyed bread and the hush that fell when your mother entered a room. You remember believing, fiercely, innocently, that nothing could ever break the circle of your family's protection. But history is not made by the innocence of children. It is made by appetites, greed, envy, hunger. And it was such appetites that sold you to the Sultan. Long before you were born, the Principality of Saressa balanced on the knife edge of debt. Your grandfather borrowed in secret from Genoese traders to keep the army fed and the walls repaired. When he died, the contracts did not. They waited patient as vultures, until your father could no longer delay repayment. In the archives of San Giorgio, you will find a letter, its ink faded to a watery brown, that records your family's surrender. The principality's ports were ceded, the treasury emptied, and when even that proved insufficient, the final negotiation began. 1 boy, 1 living heir, 1 ruby. Historians still debate the transaction's exact terms. Some say it was the Genoese who brokered the sale, their merchant galleys slipping between empires with the precision of sharks. Others insist the Sultan himself sent emissaries bearing velvet pouches of gems, demanding tribute no European court dared refuse. The chronicler Ibn Battuta wrote of such arrangements, his tone half disgusted, half resigned. In the courts of the East, children of noble blood were bought for reasons never spoken aloud. Their innocence was currency. You were the currency. In your mind, you returned to that final day at home. The sun was low and red, pouring molten light through the latticework screens. Your mother knelt before you, her hands trembling on your shoulders. She tried to smile. The attempt broke something inside you. "You will be brave," she whispered, her voice unsteady. "You will remember who you are." But already men were crowding the threshold, their boots loud on the marble, their gloved hands reaching. A silver chain was slipped over your head. The last thing you saw as you were pulled away was the glimmer of the ruby, set in a brass dish beside the threshold. It was the size of a swallow's egg, red as a drop of fresh blood. That gem will outlast you. It will pass from the Sultan's treasury to a Venetian banker, from there to a Habsburg vault, and eventually to a glass case in a museum where people will marvel at its beauty. They will murmur about craftsmanship, about mineral inclusions, about the tides of empire. Few will pause to wonder what it cost. Fewer still will speak your name. In the Sultan's domain, tribute is ritual. Every year, emissaries arrive bearing gifts of silver, carved ivory, barrels of spice. But the most prized offerings are the ones that breathe and weep. Children with skin as pale as milk, eyes the colour of sapphires or coal, hair that can be woven into ornaments. The Sultan's court collects them, as other men collect jewels. Your arrival was anticipated, like the unveiling of a rare artifact. The rumours had travelled ahead of you, whispers of your youth, your lineage, your unwilling sale. The courtier's curiosity was not idle. In this place, curiosity is a form of currency, traded in glances and insinuations. Imagine them, a hall of nobles in robes stitched with gold thread, their faces composed into masks of polite indifference. Imagine the quiet satisfaction in the vizier's eyes as he presented you, a prize acquired without war. Imagine the ledger entries, written in a hand so precise it resembles machine engraving. Item 47. Male, approximately 12 years. Acquisition cost, 1 ruby. Notable attributes, unbroken lineage. Intended purpose, private collection. These details survive in fragments, pages tucked into codices, scribbled annotations and merchant inventories. They are the bones of history, stripped clean of flesh and feeling. But if you read between the lines, you will see the truth. Every column of figures is also a grave marker. Power is never content with what it has. The Sultan ruled a territory so vast it took months to cross, commanded armies that outnumbered the populations of small kingdoms. But even he hungered for novelty, for a spectacle that would outshine every banquet and festival. You were that novelty. In the dark cell where you wait, you cannot know any of this. You cannot imagine the centuries of conquest and debt that have conspired to deliver you to this moment. You only know the ache in your wrists, the dull hunger in your belly, the cloying sweetness of the perfumed air that does nothing to hide the stench of fear. Again and again, your thoughts circle back to the ruby. You try to hate it, to blame that single stone for everything. But in your heart, you suspect the ruby was only a pretext. If it had not been the gem, it would have been something else, a cask of amber, a relic, a treaty. In the end, it does not matter. What matters is this: you have been transformed from a boy to a commodity. A thing to be appraised, weighed, traded. And somewhere above you, in chambers lit by countless lamps, the Sultan reclines on cushions and listens to the vizier's report. His expression does not change as he hears the details of your journey. How you fought, how you wept, how you fell silent when the last hope died. When the vizier finishes, the Sultan lifts one ringed hand. "Prepare him," he says, in the same tone he might use to order the evening's meal. The order is carried down through the palace, passed from scribe to eunuch to guard, until it finds you huddled on the pallet in your cell. You hear the key scrape in the lock. The hinges sigh. A figure steps inside, holding a copper basin filled with water scented so heavily it makes you gag. In the wavering lamplight, you see the reflection of your own hollow eyes. The man's voice is soft, almost pitying. The Sultan prefers unblemished skin. He sets the basin down and withdraws, leaving you to understand what comes next. Your hands tremble as you reach for the cloth. The ruby gleams in your memory. You tell yourself you will not cry again. But in the darkness, as you begin to wash away the last traces of your old life, a single tear slides free. The water is tepid, its perfume so thick it coats your tongue with bitterness. You dip the cloth into the basin, watching the ripples bloom across the copper. The moment your skin touches the damp fabric, your body recoils. You do not want to be clean for him, but you have no choice. Slowly, mechanically, you wipe the grime from your arms, your legs, the tender skin behind your ears. The cloth comes away stained grey, and you drop it back into the basin with a sound that seems to echo in the dim chamber. You think, absurdly, of the baths you took at home, when your mother would pour warm water over your shoulders and hum an old lullaby. You wonder if she would recognize you now, thin as a scarecrow, your eyes hollowed by hunger and fear. When you have scrubbed yourself raw, you sink onto the pallet. The oil lamp sputters, casting trembling shadows that dance across the walls. You press your hands to your chest and feel the frantic stutter of your heart. It is then that you hear the footsteps, soft, deliberate, drawing closer. The door opens without a sound, and 3 figures enter, 2 eunuchs in pale linen, faces blank as polished masks. Between them walks a man you recognize, the vizier, his kohl-rimmed eyes unreadable in the lantern light. He carries a shallow brass bowl and a folded length of white cloth. "Stand," he says, as if he is asking you to rise from your own grave. Your legs tremble as you obey. One eunuch takes your wrist, lifting your arm as the vizier dips his fingers into the bowl. A cool, viscous liquid glistens on his fingertips. The scent strikes you at once, sharp, medicinal, undercut by something cloyingly sweet. He begins to anoint your skin, starting at your collarbones and moving downward in slow, methodical circles. The touch is neither gentle nor cruel. It is simply impersonal, as if he were oiling a piece of furniture. You stare straight ahead, focusing on a crack in the plaster. You tell yourself you will not flinch. But when the oil is smeared across your belly, your composure shatters. A tremor ripples through you. Shame, disgust, something deeper you cannot name. The vizier's hand stills, then resumes its work. Again and again he coats your skin until you glisten like some newly birthed creature. When it is done, he steps back. The eunuch drapes the white cloth over your shoulders. It falls to your ankles, its weight unsettling in its softness. "You will be silent," the vizier says, his tone as mild as ever. "You will obey. If you resist, there are punishments." You nod, though you barely understand. The eunuchs take their places at your sides. Each lays a hand on your shoulder. You feel the heat of their palms through the thin linen as they guide you forward. Your feet make no sound on the smooth tiles. The corridor beyond is darker than before. Lamps gutter in niches, throwing uneven pools of light. You glimpse tapestries embroidered with scenes you cannot fully comprehend. Men in strange headdresses kneeling before thrones, children offering up baskets of flowers or coins. In every woven panel, the central figure wears the same expression, a complacent satisfaction that chills you to your bones. At the end of the corridor, a pair of massive doors stand ajar. From within comes a drift of music-plucked strings and the low pulse of a drum. The eunuchs pause, exchanging a glance. One steps ahead to announce your arrival in a voice that does not waver. The tribute is prepared. For an instant, nothing moves. Then the doors swing wider, and you are led into the Sultan's private chamber. If the outer halls were lavish, this place is a kind of blasphemy. Gold leaf clings to every surface. The carved screens, the low tables heaped with glistening fruits, the arches that curve overhead like the ribs of a colossal beast. Dozens of oil lamps glow from recesses in the walls, their flames reflecting in polished brass. The air is thick with incense, so dense it makes your eyes water, The musicians sit cross-legged in a corner, their faces hidden by gauzy veils. The melody they weave is slow and repetitive, a lullaby meant to soothe the predator in repose. And there, reclined among silken cushions, is the Sultan. You have seen him before, from a distance, a figure glimpsed through lattice screens or across a crowded courtyard, but never like this. He is older than you expected, his beard streaked with grey, but his eyes are bright and avid. Rings crust his fingers, emeralds and rubies that catch the lamplight and throw it back in cold shards. He does not rise. He does not need to. The weight of his gaze alone is enough to make your knees weaken. The vizier bows low. "Excellency," he murmurs, "the tribute, as promised." The Sultan's gaze drifts over you, slow as a caress. He lifts one hand and beckons. You cannot move. One of the eunuchs gives a gentle push between your shoulder blades. You take a single step forward. Another. Your feet sink into the thick carpet, the fabric muffling every sound. Closer now, you can see the fine lines etched around the Sultan's mouth, the delicate lattice of veins beneath his skin. You think of a lizard basking in the sun. He extends a hand. The vizier produces a small ivory rod and uses it to lift the edge of your robe, exposing your legs to the chill air. A flush of humiliation rises to your cheeks, but you keep your eyes fixed on the Sultan's slippers. His hand hovers in the air, fingers curled slightly. For a heartbeat you believe he might be about to dismiss you, that you have passed some unspoken test. Then his fingers brush your skin. It is nothing. A light touch, the pressure barely more than a whisper. But in that moment, you feel something inside you splinter. You are not a boy anymore. You are not a prince. You are an object, a curiosity to be examined and catalogued. Again and again his touch drifts over you, tracing the curve of your shoulder, the hollow of your collarbone. You think you might faint. The music continues, soft and relentless. The Sultan speaks at last, his voice low and pleased. He will do. You do not know if he means tonight or forever. The vizier inclines his head. Shall we proceed? The Sultan gestures lazily. You are led to a low divan near the foot of his cushions. The eunuchs guide you onto your knees, arranging your hands in your lap. One of them smooths your hair back from your face. Be still, the vizier murmurs. It is better if you do not think. He steps aside. The Sultan leans forward, and for the first time you see what lies behind his eyes, a hunger so profound it seems to swallow the room. You close your eyes, wishing you could close your ears, your skin, your heart, but nothing will save you now. Somewhere beyond the golden screens, the world goes on, merchants haggling, women drawing water from the cisterns, children chasing stray cats across rooftops. Here, in this room, time has stopped, and you have become a thing no one will ever truly see again. The music never stops. It swells and fades, loops and begins again, until it becomes the only measure of time you can comprehend. You kneel in the circle of lamplight, the perfumed heat of the chamber pressing down on your skin. Your heartbeat has slowed to something you barely recognize, a distant, mechanical flutter. You have not spoken since you were brought here. You have not raised your eyes. You have not moved, except when commanded. The Sultan reclines among his cushions, watching you. His gaze is not cruel in the way you once imagined cruelty. It is worse. It is curious, detached, as if you were no more than a curious animal plucked from a distant forest and delivered for his amusement. Now and again, he lifts his hand, and the vizier bends to listen. You cannot hear what is said, but each time the Sultan's lips move, your stomach contracts. The air is thick with incense, amber and myrrh, and beneath it, the sharp copper tang of oil lamps sputtering in their niches. You cannot see the stars beyond the high windows, but you know that the night has deepened. You know that soon the dawn will come. When it does, you will no longer be who you were. A servant enters, bearing a tray heaped with sugared dates and slices of pomegranate gleaming like wet rubies. The Sultan selects a piece of fruit and raises it to his mouth. Juice runs down his fingers, bright against the pale skin. You think of the ruby again, the one for which you were traded. You imagine it sitting in the vizier's coffer, gleaming in the lamplight while you are inspected and prepared like a piece of livestock. The vizier steps forward at a silent command. He gestures, and you are made to stand. Your legs tremble so badly you almost fall. Hands guide you onto the divan, arranging your limbs with the same care a merchant might lavish on an expensive tapestry. You feel the Sultan's gaze travel over you. Slow, measuring, unhurried. "Beautiful," he says at last, his voice a soft purr. Almost unspoiled. A single tear slides down your cheek. The vizier catches it with the tip of one slender finger. He does not wipe it away, but instead studies the droplet, as if it contains some secret worth knowing. Again and again you tell yourself this is not real, that any moment you will wake in your own bed, your mother humming softly as she draws back the curtains to let in the dawn. But when you open your eyes, you are still here. The Sultan shifts on his cushions. You hear the soft rustle of silk, the faint clink of his rings against one another. His shadow falls over you as he rises. You close your eyes. You feel the divan dip beneath his weight, the warmth of his body so close it makes your stomach lurch. His hand settles on your shoulder, heavy, possessive. You imagine you can feel each facet of the ruby pressing into your skin, branding you with its red gleam. His touch moves lower. You want to vanish. You want to dissolve into the dark air and become nothing. But your body betrays you. It remains solid. It remains here. The music plays on. When he speaks, his voice is quiet, almost gentle. You will not resist. A small, broken motion. The vizier's voice floats to you from somewhere far away. Good. It is better when there is no struggle. You do not struggle. What follows unfolds in fragments, glimpses caught between blinks, sensations that do not fit together. The press of his hand on your ribs, the taste of perfumed air that makes you gag, the slow, inexorable unraveling of whatever you once believed was inviolate. Somewhere deep inside you, something fractures. Again and again you feel it, the knowledge that you are no longer a person in any way that matters, that you have been made into an instrument of someone else's appetite. When it is over, you are left kneeling on the carpet, the white cloth clinging to your skin. The Sultan returns to his cushions, his breathing unhurried. He selects another piece of pomegranate and eats it in silence. You are not dismissed. You remain there, eyes lowered, as the musicians shift to a different melody, a slow, lilting tune that makes your skin crawl. You think of the other children you glimpsed in the corridor, the boy with empty eyes, the girl whose hands were bound in silver cords. You wonder if they once felt as you do now, stripped of all that once made them real. Somewhere beyond the door, the palace continues its endless routines. Servants stoke the kitchen fires. Courtiers whisper their intrigues. Guards pace the parapets, eyes scanning the horizon for threats that will never come. But here, in this chamber, time has stopped. The Sultan leans back, watching you. His expression is one of idle satisfaction, as though he has completed a simple task. "Tomorrow," he says, his voice drifting toward you like smoke, "you will be instructed in your duties." Your mouth opens, but no sound emerges. The vizier bows, as His Excellency commands. The Sultan's gaze flickers over you one last time, then dismisses you with a small motion of his hand. Two eunuchs step forward, lifting you beneath the arms. Your legs refuse to obey you. You are carried from the chamber as the music follows, growing fainter with each step. You are aware of every detail, the lamps flickering in their niches, the cold of the tiles beneath your bare feet when they set you down, the weight of the cloth against your skin. You do not weep. There is nothing left in you that can weep. The corridor stretches ahead, long and dark, lined with closed doors. Behind each one you imagine another child enduring the same ritual, another life reduced to a ledger entry and a price paid in gemstones. When you reach your cell, the door opens on silent hinges. You are guided inside and lowered to the pallet. The vizier pauses in the threshold. For a moment you think he might say something, some hollow word of comfort or warning. Instead, he only watches you, his eyes flat as coins. Then the door closes. In the darkness, you remember your mother's voice, you will remember who you are. But you do not. You remember only the ruby, red and perfect and cold. You remember the Sultan's hand. And you remember the knowledge that there is no part of you left untouched. Years pass. They slip by in hushed increments you can no longer measure, marked only by the silent rituals that govern every hour of your existence. You never leave the palace walls. You grow taller, though your shoulders remain narrow, your limbs delicate as a reed's. Your hair is kept shorn close to your scalp, a sign that you belong to no family but his. Your skin remains unblemished, because you have learned that resistance invites punishments too precise to describe. The Sultan's interest in you cools, as it does with all his acquisitions. In time you are assigned a role, silently attending him as he eats, pouring rosewater over his hands when he finishes, carrying the lacquered box that holds his signet rings. You are never permitted to speak unless spoken to. You are never permitted to meet anyone's gaze. At night, you lie awake on your narrow pallet, staring at the ceiling until the darkness swims with memory. Some nights you hear the soft weeping of other children through the walls. Some nights you hear nothing at all. You learn that numbness is a kind of survival. Sometimes, when the Sultan's mood is generous, he allows you to stand behind his throne as petitions are heard. You listen without reaction as men prostrate themselves, offering tribute in the form of spices, horses, casks of jewels. You never see the ruby again, though you know it remains somewhere in these walls, a tiny, perfect monument to your undoing. No one speaks your name. In the ledgers, you are recorded only as an inventory number, item 47. When you fall ill, your skin burning with fever so fierce you can no longer stand, no physician is summoned. A eunuch brings you a cup of watered wine and a scrap of linen to wipe your mouth. You know, even then, that you will not leave this place alive. One morning, you do not rise from your pallet. You cannot lift your head. The vizier enters, his footsteps soft as ever. He studies you for a long moment, then turns away. "Remove the body," he says. "It is the last time anyone speaks of you." In the years that follow, rumours flicker through the palace like candle flames. Some say your spirit wanders the corridors, a pale figure glimpsed only from the corner of the eye. They say your hands are always outstretched, as if searching for something you lost and can never reclaim. Others claim they hear your voice in the hush between midnight and dawn, a soft, reedy whisper that makes the hair rise on the nape of the neck. They call you the ghost in the palace, a reminder, a warning. In time, the Sultan himself dies. His treasury is divided among distant heirs. The ruby passes from hand to hand, its bloody gleam undimmed by the centuries. Today it sits behind glass in a European museum, a plaque beneath it describing its provenance in precise, bloodless language. Acquired from the court of Sultan Mahir II, circa 14th century. Provenance, Genoese trade routes. Visitors pause to admire its clarity, the perfection of its facets. They do not know, most do not care, that this gem once bought a child's life. But some nights, when the gallery is dark and the last footfalls have faded, The air seems to hold a memory, a flicker of white, like a scrap of cloth, a hush so complete it feels alive. If you stand very still, you might imagine you hear breathing, a heartbeat that never learned to quiet itself, a voice that has waited centuries to be heard, whispering the simple truth. History is not only what was recorded, it is also what was silenced.